Okay, awesome. So thank you everyone for joining. We're gonna get started. This is a very special International Women's Day event. And for this one, we just kind of wanted to treat it as similar how we do other White Talks, a fireside chat kind of style conversation. And this one is really about kind of the realities of working in AI and tech beyond research, beyond product. We do see that so many of the events and even these White Talks, we do have folks that are entrepreneurial or they work in research or they're talking about, organizationally, how AI can be, applied and what are some of the challenges that come up. But what we lose from those perspectives is, discussion around more grounded applications of AI and what does that look like in, high sensitivity spaces, right? The EU AI Act categorizes like different types of AI according to how impactful they are for people. So obviously we're not in the EU, but I like to sort of keep that frame of reference because AI applications, in the medical field, in med devices, in just public health, right? Those are high risk, high impact areas of AI. So I'm super excited for today's talk. The speaker is Pradeepti Raj, whose background is a senior business data analyst, Scrum Master. She's worked at many big companies, big organizations, and so much of her career has been focused on public health. So it's exciting to have her here. Hi, Deepti. Thank you so much for joining. Maybe we can just take a moment here and you can just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a bit about, what areas of AI you've worked in, obviously beyond the bio.
Sure. Thanks, Irene, for the introduction and for this opportunity. Like I said before, I've been a part of one of these organizations before, and I've been on the other side of table, moderating a lot of events, and it's so special for me to come this side and actually share my perspective. So I'm Deepthi. I've got 11 years of experience as a business data analyst. I started my career off with data quality, moved into change and release management, and now into data analytics. I enjoy my work, and outside of my work, I'm very creative. I do some face painting, and I also practice some dance. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my perspective.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. Just for context, because I think we originally met through Women in Data, right?
We did. That's
Yeah.
where we met. Yes.
So yeah, I know you've put on so many different events. So I'm glad that the tables have turned.
Yes. Thank you for that, Irene.
Of course. Yeah, so some of the things that we'll be talking about today is kind of the operational side of AI. What does that look like as it touches, an analyst, and how does the role of an analyst, evolve and change? And again, we're contextualizing this in sort of a because you're okay, there's the technical side, right? Managing the technical systems themselves, how they're impacting your work, managing delivery, managing risk,
Mhm.
how you interface with other stakeholders that you work with. So there's a lot kind of to unpack with this. So
Right.
yeah, let's get started. Yeah, the first question would be, and this is a heavy one, I guess, because even I feel the weight of it, right? Like, we can't learn every tool every day, constantly keeping up with what feels like unsustainable, right? And it
Mhm.
kind of creates this cognitive weight, this uncertainty, right? Because partly because of what we read about and how it's displacing jobs and that's very important, but also the uncertainty of like what is the next tool going to be and I'm like what is another way that I'm gonna
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
yeah, so let's just start with that and get that out of the way. How do you navigate uncertainty, particularly in healthcare where there's regulations and different tools and priorities keep changing? What kind of
Right.
keeps you grounded?
Yeah, that's a great question and great way to start the event. I think the only change, the change is the only constant. I started my career as a change management analyst initially, and at that time, I didn't know the significance of it. But I truly believe that change is the only constant. Regulations evolve, priorities shift, technologies keep accelerating, tools come and go. So when everything around us is in motion, I think the most sustainable strategy is to evolve with it. Of course, the core thinking frameworks cannot be replaced. So, in the capacity of an analyst, I try anchoring myself into these foundational skills like having a deep understanding of workflows, interpreting regulatory impacts, aligning the stakeholders, adding the human element to all of these, and then driving iterative delivery. These capabilities ensure that solutions remain compliant and scalable no matter how quickly the landscape around us changes. So we can only control what we can, right?
And have you felt a lot of change in your role compared to 8 years ago, 10 years ago? Like, how do you feel like it's changed as you've progressed in your career?
You mean in terms of AI or just in
Yeah.
general?
In terms of AI, your use of AI or expectations even around your use of AI as an analyst?
Right, right, yeah. Like everywhere in every other job, what everyone's hearing that, AI is the big thing, one has to keep oneself updated. And I'm so glad that even at my workplace, we have all of these trainings to keep ourselves updated and upskill ourselves.
Hmm.
Apart from that, I think given the nature of the industry that I work in, healthcare, there's a lot of need and use of AI. So yeah, I've seen a lot of changes. As in, I've not been into healthcare previously. Like it's only from the past 5 to 6 years that I've been here.
Hmm.
So yes, I've seen a lot of changes, and especially here in healthcare, a lot of it, a lot of adaptation, a lot of upscaling going on, and a lot of the need for using small AI tools or chatbots for repetitive work, trying
Hmm.
to make things better and keep ourselves organized.
And then when you are using these for tools for things like that, because with healthcare it feels like so exposed, right? So
Right.
have you felt, I don't know, more direction, I guess, from um maybe stakeholders or leadership around how you use it? Like, are they showing concern? Are they showing sort of an appetite for adoption, or is it something you feel like you have to self-manage?
No, from the level up, I feel it like coming from leadership, especially given in healthcare,
Hmm.
given the nature of this industry, I feel there's a lot of use and applications for AI. The reasons, I mean, of course, there are many, and especially in this industry, I think the one of the biggest reasons is because how data rich the industry is, right? Like in my work across public health and radiology, I've seen firsthand how massive the data landscape is. Imaging, health record data, diagnostics, public health data, and given all of these volume and complexity, I think healthcare data makes like a natural fit for AI applications, like for pattern recognition, modeling, and then workflow automation, and some basic decision support. And also, the industry could use some added speed, of course, without compromising accuracy. So AI also is positioned in a very good way to bridge that gap. And given the nature of the industry of how even small shifts in workflow could feel immediate and highly visible even for someone outside like a patient. So this amplifies the sense of exposure and makes AI driven change more consequential in my sector than any others, I feel.
Yeah. Um, as far as analysts or data professionals in general, are concerned, because obviously there's perhaps a misunderstanding, right? The idea that AI is replacing jobs, but then you still have analysts who need to be working on projects and need to be
Yeah.
tracking trends and communicating those trends up and telling stories with those trends, right? So, um, yeah, I guess what do you feel is misunderstood about that versus AI changing how work is actually done for you as an analyst?
Yeah, that's a great question again, and I think many professionals are thinking about this right now. From the conversations I hear and on ground level, I see that the analysts still remain a critical part of any project, even an AI-driven project. So when AI can generate insights, it cannot really define the right problem or understand the contextual nuances or the organizational dynamics and have an ethical oversight. into any problem or a project at hand. So an analyst is still needed. But and in reality, I think any job actually, not just as analyst, they involve many components. But of course, there are some parts where there are repetitive tasks, where there's like a
Hmm.
structured kind of work, and then there's like a human element needed, and then there's like a high judgment kind of work. What I see is AI, being able to apply the AI for those tasks to make an analyst life easy, like, where AI excels at automation, the repetitive parts. So when AI takes over those low value tasks, professionals can work on their high value responsibilities. And in broader way, actually, automation is the strongest in structured and repetitive and data heavy tasks. So, given instances like image triage, detecting specific abnormalities, generating draft reports, claims processing, population health analytics, these are some of the areas where heavily AI is being used, and, for the right reasons. So, yeah.
I saw I don't know if you've seen this show The Pit, if anybody's seen it, but it's about like the emergency room and
Mhm.
like like doctors and nurses. And I actually had a
I've
client
not
who
seen that. I'm sorry.
I had a client who works in the ER, and they were saying that it's actually very accurate about like the types of stories they get and how they do the actual medical acting of like how they would diagnose, or
Mhm.
do the diagnostics. And anyway, one of the storylines in one of the episodes is like they have a new administrator at the hospital, and she's trying to get everybody to use generative AI to help with their jobs. And then it's like the clinical notes, or that's like the annoying thing that
Right,
like none of the
right,
doctors want to do because like they actually just want to like talk to more people because there's like a doctor shortage, so they don't want to write notes, which makes sense.
right.
um so yeah, let's talk a little bit about like what are some of those workflows that are realistically being automated. And just as a caveat too, just for context, it's something we were talking about before we started the talk, when it was just the two of us. Um, there is this disparity between yeah, like yes, the innovation and the flow of the technological advancement that's happening and the actual adoption of that. Obviously, there's a lag, and not just
True.
adoption by individuals, but like adoption by bigger organizations who have, a lot of risk attached to automating workflows or using AI and integrating AI, right? So, yeah, what parts of the workflows right now do you feel are responsible and coherent applications of AI, and which do you feel like are not?
That's a very relevant question, actually. So what I've seen is, like I said before, so where AI can be strongest is like, where automation is needed in terms of like a structured, repetitive, data-heavy tasks. So all of these scribing, generating draft reports, and generating draft meeting minutes and everything, AI is heavily being used. Population analytics, health analytics, generating draft visualizations, all of that, yes, where there are like, standardized inputs and there's high volume data sets, and where there's like a lot of reliability on pattern recognition. Oh, in those areas, I've seen that, we're using a lot of AI. What is not being automated is the clinical judgment part of it, the
Mm.
decision making, patient communication, ethical accountability, complex case interpretation. AI can flag a suspicious finding, but it cannot fully integrate several parameters and contextual nuances the way a trained professional can. So, yeah, so the future I don't see is like a full automation. I think it is like AI augmented professionals operating at like a higher level of oversight and decision authority. That's what I think would happen.
And this one might seem like kind of self-explanatory, but let's explore it a little bit because,
Mhm.
with healthcare environments, they're just so complex.
Yeah.
So let's explore kind of why it is so important to have that human judgment, particularly when it comes to governance too, or the design process itself, or designing the like actual process of how these environments unfold, particularly like from
Right,
your perspective as an analyst, probably working on a bunch of different kinds of engagements and projects.
right, right. I've actually thought about this quite a bit. Complex healthcare environments operate at the intersection of clinical care, regulation, there's ethics, there's finance, human behavior, many, many more. And that complexity cannot be reduced to patterns alone. While AI can actually generate great recommendations, it cannot fully understand the contextual nuances. So human judgment is still required to interpret the outputs and make accountable decisions where safety and, especially the patient safety and compliance are at stake. So I mean, the insights of course, can be taken from AI, but humans are the ones calling all the shots, right? We are the ones making those decisions, and so in complex systems like healthcare, judgment isn't optional; it's structural. So having a human eye would I mean is needed.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's something to be said about, again, like traditionally, these are systems where they're most cautious, right?
They are. They have to be, right?
Life or death sometimes.
Truly.
Yeah, like actually. And then okay, let's switch gears a little bit because I've been laid off. You've been laid off. We've all been laid off. Um,
Sure.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because kind of along the same lines of yes, the innovation is going so quickly and organizations, I mean, they'll say like, "Oh, we had to do layoffs because of AI." But we know that that's not really why, right? It takes a long time to actually get to parity. It takes a long time to build workflows that are actually optimized so well that you have to lay off that many people. So
True.
we know that there's like some disingenuous, okay, we're balancing a P&L, that's fine. We could call it what it is, right? So anyway, how do we stay resilient during this time that feels normal? Like we're not in a layoff
Right.
season, we're in a layoff lifestyle, right? So
True.
how do we stay resilient during, because restructuring happens. It happens in healthcare, it happens in other tech companies, it happens across industries.
It does, it does. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Irene. And yeah, I can speak of personal experience here. I was laid off in early 2025, and it was not an easy phase. So my key takeaways from that experience would be number one is to not take it personally. I know it's easier said,
Mhm.
but layoffs are often budget driven. They're not performance driven. So I kept reminding myself of that, and it really helped separate the emotion from reality.
Yeah,
As unsettling as the phase is, the healthiest thing one could do is to acknowledge the disappointment and accept what's out of our control and just move on with clarity, right? For one's own sake. But in hindsight, in that opportunity, I've met some of the nicest people in the form of colleagues, and I'm so grateful for the experiences I've had and the lessons I learned, which I wouldn't have otherwise. And the second thing I would say is to always keep the professional toolkit ready. Keep your resume updated, update your LinkedIn, and constantly also documenting the impacts or contributions one is doing at work. So that once when change happens, we don't have to start from scratch and we actually have some head start. We're
yeah,
more prepared, right? That helps. And something that really helped me also is to have a stability outside of work. I know it doesn't sound related, but it is heavily related. So personal routines become an anchor. So especially in terms of uncertainty, like a layoff. So be it exercise, be it quiet time, learning, family time, whatever keeps one grounded. For me, family time and upskilling and working on my creative stuff really helped me get through that phase. And lastly, I would say, I mean, this is the ideal thing to do, but we don't do many times, is having a career insurance even before we need it, right? like constantly upskilling, gaining cross-domain exposure, building a strong professional network actually, and staying curious about emerging trends. As simple as it may sound, actually, it may feel a little disruptive at that point, but then I think the healthiest thing to do is to like treat it as a redirection and keep moving forward, right? That's what helped me, and that's what I would say.
And finding a way to do that that feels, again, sustainable, right? Because there is a lot to know about,
There is, there is.
and I am a firm believer that it is an antidote to the fears.
It is, it
Because it's
is.
in itself its own salvation, kind of in a way, right? Like, if
Yeah,
there's a huge delta right now between people that actually have fluency with different models or people that are creating products with like literally, vibe coding and whatever, right? That
right,
stuff is
right.
becoming more
That's
accessible.
huge.
So, um, there's a rather, I think it's being sold to us as like, oh, this is a pivotal time and we need to be worried because there's instability, right? Um,
Right,
but at the same time, again, because adoption is lagging so slowly at an organizational level, then really right now poses like the greatest opportunity there is, kind of, to have sort of a leg up on what an organization is doing and what you know as an individual and like how you can use these tools as an individual. And that can
right.
create pressure, but I think a way to relieve that pressure is to say, what you said, like keep that ritual of your daily, okay, maybe you're not doing something crazy, every
Mhm.
day, but you're still touching it every day or doing
Right,
something with it
right.
every day,
At least from time to time. Yeah.
whether for your job or for yourself, right?
Right, right. True.
And I think that we have to constantly remind ourselves of that, just as we have to remind ourselves about the
Right,
layoffs thing and
right,
about it's like
right.
the constant reframing is vital.
It is, truly.
Um, So let's talk a bit about yeah, how you gather requirements. Especially, I think right now what must be a challenge at an operational level is okay, the tools are becoming more sophisticated, whether through, whatever workbench you use to do your work. But then maybe requirements are not so clear because maybe they're not sure what they actually need, right?
Mm.
So how do you work in that middle ground of like you're being given a project or a task? You need to know what your requirements, what your parameters are for your own work. And maybe through you asking, it becomes clear to the stakeholders or to leadership what they're actually asking for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like how do you navigate that middle ground?
That's a great question, and actually, that's my bread and butter. Uh, I believe that understanding the why behind every request is crucial. And once the purpose is clear, the how, the when, the where will naturally fall into place, right? So, a solid grasp of the underlying reasoning helps me assess whether we're solving the right problem, or are we duplicating an existing solution, or are we more if a more effective option already exists, right, within an organization. So understanding the why, of course, that is the crucial part of all of this. And then once that is in place, using open-ended questions to understand the business goals and pain points actually helps. And from time to time, I also try making prototypes or mock-ups so that the stakeholders can visualize the potential solutions. And of course, it's an iterative process, right? And from there I rely on the the standard textbook techniques like workshops, discovery sessions, and working sessions, interviews to surface detailed requirements. So the start is usually the trickiest part, but then once we get going, it's actually pretty smooth.
And do you find that there's enough space for that to happen, or do you feel like you're the one asking for that space?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. It depends on the stakeholders, depends on the project, the urgency, the timelines, many things, many factors. So
Yeah.
I've seen a mix of both.
And then yeah, for those that are looking to break into healthcare or even just data analytics, they want to work
Right.
as an analyst at all. What do you feel are the most important like sort of hands-on like technical skills that they'll need to be successful if they're just joining?
Sure, sure. That's a great question. So, I mean, technical skills, of course, I'll let you know. But apart from that, healthcare in general or any other domain or industry is very wide, right? Let's just talk about healthcare. It's a very wide ecosystem. There's public health, insurance, R&D, radiology, and clinical operations, and so much more. So having some foundational domain knowledge really helps one get like a head start to navigate conversations, interpret requirements accurately, and understand how decisions ripple across different parts of the system. So a domain knowledge actually will give you a great head start in whatever domain industry you want to get into. So coming to the technical aspect of it, on the ground level, I would say some basic SQL querying skills to just navigate databases and get some quick insights. For data analysis and visualization, I love Power BI for making these reports and dashboards. Tableau is great too. I would say working with flowcharts actually, process flows to make, to create all the flow diagrams. I use a lot of Visio now. In the past, I've used Balsamic and Lucidchart, Figma for prototyping. And also, depending on the organization and the kind of role, a lot of times a project manager's responsibilities also fall into a BA's bucket. So for some basic project management tasks like documenting user stories or something, I would recommend Jira, Azure DevOps, Confluence. I've also seen people using Smartsheet and ServiceNow and Microsoft Planner. So depending on the organization, there are so many tools for that. And some basic testing skills like writing test scripts, enabling UAT, and so on. So of course there could be much more. So in a nutshell, I would say a strong BA combines like a process thinking with data literacy. So to identify workflow bottlenecks, interpret data trends, and to translate insights into a practical improvements that support both operational efficiency and patient outcomes.
No, I love that because even when I remember when I first started getting interested in data analytics, data science, it was
Mhm.
like, okay, um, Python, SQL, like that was your bread and butter. Then you learned about the workbenches, then you were, learned
Right,
about these other tools that you mentioned for other parts of your job. But it kind
right,
of makes it like its own point in a way because it's like these are still the relevant things because
right,
again, these organizations have not innovated out of what we still need, right? It's
right.
just how
Especially
you
in
get
terms
to
of the
that.
roles for the employees, at least it's still the same mostly.
Right, right. And that again, I think that serves to just remind us that it seems like it's going fast. It seems like things are escalating so quickly, and it feels maybe sometimes insurmountable to stay on top of it. But again,
Mhm.
at a practical level, that's not really the case.
Sure, yeah.
So let's go, to another part of this conversation with which is, because I mean, I feel like for most of the tech world as I knew it, when I got into it in, 2010, it was all about being agile, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Having, ceremonies to acknowledge what's being built and why it's being built and quickly pivoting if, there needs to be a pivot, right? So,
Right.
let's talk about that side of this. Do you feel teams are still being agile, or are we just doing agile ceremonies without really changing a lot of the decision making above it?
Right, sure. That's a very thoughtful question. I'll have to go back, step back a little, and give you some background of my
Yeah.
work to answer
Mhm.
this. When I started my career in 2011, I was into an organization that was using like a traditional waterfall approach for
Mm.
project management, like detailed documentation, scope freezes, formal change control process, and so on. And at that time, Agile was cool, right? Getting certain, people would say get certified, it helps, which I did, and it helped. And I started working in a pure Agile environment, and I liked how light it is and the iterative style of working. Fast forward to later, I was introduced to a hybrid kind of approach, kind of, kind of blending the best of both the worlds, documentation heavy until the planning phase, and then agile with user stories and stuff like that. Also, slightly digressing from the question, I've seen that sometimes organizations adapt agile ceremonies, they do stand-ups and sprint plans and all the other stuff. But the real measure of agility is not the ceremonies themselves, right? The true agile shows up in how decisions are made, whether the teams are empowered to act quickly. If decision making still remains centralized, slow, and approval heavy, then I'm sorry to say the organizations may be doing agile without actually being agile.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, being a purist also doesn't guarantee any better outcome, right? So, what truly matters is choosing the best approach that fits the project's context and the organizational strategies, support good decision making, and helps the team deliver meaningful value. Whether it's agile, waterfall, or a blend of both, the real goal we're looking for is to create a way of working that drives clarity and gets us the results we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And along those lines, like, do you think AI, like maybe at your organization or prior organizations, like, do you feel like it has been an active agent in um, how teams are operating, or do you feel like it's not there yet?
At a certain level, I think it is there, but I think there's a long way to go of how we see in LinkedIn or how we hear in news that, AI is replacing everything. I've not seen that scale of application yet, at
Right.
least in the limited exposure I have and industries that I've worked with.
And then yeah, just going back to like sort of the career side of this, because we've also seen a lot of uh full-time roles con
Hmm.
maybe I don't know if being replaced is the right word, being augmented. That's the
That's a
right
very
word.
nice
Um,
word.
being augmented by contract roles. So just because of the nature of the market right now and how things have been going or rather not been going, right? How should senior professionals, people that have been working for 10 plus years, in a certain field, right? How should they think of these shifts in the roles right now?
Um, Interesting thought actually. And I've been a part of both the worlds, and each has offered its own set of advantages for me.
Mhm.
Contract roles that I've done have gotten me faster entry into organizations and given me the opportunities to work on real high impact initiatives. Full-time roles, on the other hand, tend to provide long-term stability. There's like a deep organizational influence that one can make, and the ability to shape the strategy and culture over time in an organization. So at least in my case, and the people I know, I think the professionals today, the key is career optionality, right? Being able to, being open and being able to choose between them, like, both models, depending on the opportunity, the impact of work, and the stage of their career, of course, right? And the focus should be on the employment type and more, should not be actually on the employment type and more on whether the role allows them to solve meaningful problems and apply their expertise and continue evolving. Whatever floats their boat, right? Whatever helps.
In your experience, have you seen like contract roles, like they seem like good entry points, but then do you feel like they do translate to like integration within the company and like truly an opportunity that might have been hard to find out elsewhere, or are they kind of like, okay, bye after the contract ends? Because I haven't really done them that much, so I'm not sure.
Sure, sure. Actually, I know that there's this perspective or like, a myth. I mean, people think of contractors, but thankfully, throughout my career, I've been with employers that truly value their contractors, I would say.
Mm,
I've seen firsthand myself people transitioning into director roles also from starting off as a contractor, AVP level
mm.
people I've seen who've started from a contractor. So truly depends on the organization and the kind of role and the impact one is making.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, and then for maybe anybody who's out there that is thinking about getting into business analytics or data analytics, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the natural paths that evolve from that as an entry point for women in tech.
Great question, actually. The common paths that I have seen for people that have started as business analysts could be I've seen people seamlessly transition into product first. Because business analysts and analysts in general have a deep understanding of requirements and user needs, and that help them actually with product vision and roadmaps. I've also seen people transition to data and analytics roles, because there's like a natural problem solving capability that an analyst has, and to derive insights and drive data informed decisions. So that really helps in analytics. I've also seen people transition to program and project management. Also because BAs are already, they're good at stakeholder coordination and execution oversight. So that also a good, feels like a good path for them. And then I've also seen senior analysts evolve into strategic roles like, business strategy, transformation leadership, and solution architecture, stuff like that. So yeah, there are a lot of paths that one can move into from business analysis.
And what are some like possible roadways for you? I mean, as you consider, how your career is evolving, what are some areas that like you'd be excited about?
I started my career as a data quality analyst. I love that. I moved into a lot of management after that. I did a lot of change in release problem, incident management, availability management. And I really understood that I'm more driven towards analytics. And that's when I did my master's, and I mastered with data analytics. So I feel that, I'm more excited about data analytics, and, how I can bring about more insights into, an otherwise normal project, and how we can identify more metrics or KPIs. That excites me more.
Yeah. So you want to stay like in an analytics focused role for a while?
I want to, yeah. And I also find product exciting. You work in product, and you know that it's very exciting, the kind of work that they do these days. So,
Maybe
yeah.
too exciting for me.
I know, I know.
Um, well, awesome. Yeah, I guess before we wrap up here, is there anything else that you feel is important in this conversation surrounding, just kind of those realities of AI and how you're kind of dealing with them, in your work?
I think the key is to just use it, to just make yourself more organized and efficient, and keeping abreast with all the latest trends and technologies, and a constant upskilling will really help any professional, actually, not just in my industry or not just an analyst. And on a completely different note, I think perfection is just overrated. I believe in persistence, I believe in consistency. And that's what helped me in my career. I was never perfect. I was never like doing great things on day one. And what I bring to table is I'm consistent. I am more diligent, and I'm more organized, and I bring that value to my work. That helped me a lot so far.
Yeah, and it's also I think again because of the reality of the moment, right? It's like we can't be perfectionists. You can't be on top of
Yeah,
every single model that's coming out and understand it,
right.
but you can broaden how much you know about the tools you actually use. And
Right.
then, the more you can stay curious and the more you can um find ways to actually help yourself first. So it's
So,
interesting. It's like teaching us to let go of perfectionism and also be more selfish in a way, right? Because
right.
the
For our
more
own
you
sake.
can, right, like the more you can help yourself, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to want to learn, and
Right.
the less scary it's going to feel because, okay, they start saying, oh, it's going to take your job, it's going to take your job, but it's like, you're the one who knows how to use these tools and you know the domain knowledge of your area of work, whatever it is, and you know what's actually yielding a better result from the product perspective or from,
True.
the
True.
efficacy of, whatever the application is, right? So,
True.
um, yeah, it serves as a reminder to all of us that we all have a role to play in this, and the more you can engage with it, the kind of safer you are, and the
Right.
less scary it is, right? So
True, true.
both
The
are
more
kind of,
value you bring to your organization, the more, they value you.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think that's a good natural place to stop. Thank you so much, Deepti. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me, Irene. I appreciate it. Thank you. And happy Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. This was a great one. I'm gonna stop the recording, but
Mm.
we will add this to the YouTube channel. So for anybody that wasn't here today, you'll be able to find it there.
Thank
So
you.
stop that.